Everyone hits a bump in the road. What do you do with it? Be inspired as we explore the ways people experience, navigate, and manage the ups and downs and twists and turns in this road trip called life. Welcome to another episode of Bump in the Road. The basic podcast is always free. We also have a premium subscription called Bump 2 that lets you listen in on extended behind-the-scenes conversations with our guests. Check it out at www.bumpintheroad.us. Chris Dahl-Bredine is also known as @ShotsFromAbove, his Instagram handle, where he shares his exquisite photography with the world. Chris flies a trike, an open motorized aerial vehicle. With a range of several hundred miles, he can explore from his home base in Taos, New Mexico, into Colorado and southern Utah. What motivates one to pursue such a unique way of making a living? A bump in the road, of course. Welcome. And Chris, tell us your story.
So I moved to Taos, New Mexico when I was just turned 20, with just an obsession and love for skiing and wanting to learn how to ski. And I was just always so enthralled by anything that gave you the sense of flying, whether it was skiing or surfing or anything where you just felt kind of free from the bounds of the bonds of gravity, And so I had always thought about flying since I was a kid. I wanted to be a pilot, and when I was 13 in Silver City, I went up for a flight with a local pilot, and because I was writing a paper on what I wanted to do when I grew up, I wanted to be a pilot, and so I went up with this man. He was a great pilot, old guy, and it was a really rough day. The air was, in New Mexico, the air gets really rough because of the atmosphere here. So it was an amazing experience, but I actually got sick because I got motion sickness. And so I came down and I just felt really discouraged because I thought maybe I wasn't cut out to be a pilot. And so I kind of put the dream on the back burner for a long time and just thought, well, I can't fly if I'm going to get airsick. But I kept seeing, hang gliders and these other ways of flying that, I wanted to experience flying with, ideally with nothing, just me out there flying. And when I realized, I had dreams as a kid flying, as a lot of people do, just flying with your arms or whatever, flying through space and flying over the earth and just seeing incredible visions of the earth from above. As long as I can remember, I had those really vivid dreams. And when I woke up, I just feel so happy and just so alive from the dream. And so I just kept in the back of my mind that I really wanted to learn to fly. And for many years, skiing was kind of, great substitute for flying because and skiing in fresh powder just feels like you're flying. And I still love to do that often. And it's the closest thing to flying that I know. But when I was around 30, I was skiing up in Taos Ski Valley, and there was 2 feet of fresh snow, and I was skiing in an area where that hadn't been skied much at all at that time. And before I knew it, I felt the whole mountain start moving with me, and all I realized immediately I was in a slide, a small avalanche, and the real complication was it was taking me right towards a cliff. And so I tried everything I could to stop. I tried to grab a tree. I tried to just brace my skis into the snow, and it just took me like I was just a little feather, just floating on the surface of the snow, and pushed me right off of this 40-foot cliff head first. And I remember thinking as I toppled head first when my skis hit the rocks at the top of the cliff. I remember thinking, that's it. I'm done. I'm dead. And then I don't remember what happened for a while. And my first memory after that was sitting in the snow up to my neck at the bottom, somewhere. I didn't know where I was at the time because I didn't remember what had happened for a little while. But I was sitting like in a chair of snow up to my neck, and just one of my friends was talking to me. He's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I slowly started to remember what had happened, and I kind of scanned myself, and I was just couldn't believe I was alive. I knew I had broken some bones. I felt like my wrist was broken, and my back was definitely injured, and so I just sat there, kind of stunned and dazed, and amazed that I was still alive. And so anyway, they got me off the mountain. It took a long time because of where I was, and I began the long process of recovering. What turned out, I had fractured my T9 vertebra. And it wasn't a bad fracture, thankfully, because they didn't have to do surgery, but I was in pain for a long time. And, that as I kind of slowly came back into my body, I feel like I left my body for a while when that happened. And I just started to realize that, God, we could be gone any day. And every day was such a blessing to be alive. And that really, what really mattered was I living the way I really dreamed of and really wanted to. And, I was for the most part, but I realized some of my dreams I hadn't been listening to anymore. And one of those dreams was flying. So as I recovered, I started researching, hang gliders and just flying, just feeling this new enthusiasm and gratitude for being alive. And I found these, what we call trikes. And it's basically like a hang glider wing on a hang glider style wing, but it's on a 3-wheeled carriage with a motor. So you can actually take off and land like an airplane. And as soon as I saw those, I thought that would be really cool because you don't have to jump off a mountain. You can actually fly places and travel. And you get to see everything from a totally unobstructed view with this amazing wing over your head that you actually are controlling with your arms on the actual wing. After that, researching for a year or so and recovering, I started searching for a place where I could learn to do this and try it out and see if I liked it. And I found a flight school in Arizona and really liked them on the phone and booked a week of training with them.
What kind of license do you get?
So with this kind of actually when I started back in 2002, if you flew a single seater, you didn't need any license. So you could but you had to learn from someone. You couldn't just get in one and try to learn by yourself, obviously. So to learn back then, you had to have a exemption from the FAA to be an instructor, or you had to learn from someone who had that exemption, and where they were labeled as a basic flight instructor. And so that's what I did. I went out there and learned in a 2-seater. And actually, I had a similar experience the first couple days as when I had flown when I was 13. It was very rough air, and I started getting sick, and I almost walked away and said, I can't do this, And then the next couple days later, I went out on an evening flight when it was smooth as glass, and it was a beautiful sunset. The whole sky lit up. And that's when I realized, I don't have to fly when it's rough. There's certain times of the day or certain days when it's smooth. And so then I decided right then and there, and I decided I liked it and I loved it and I wanted to buy one, and I actually had saved up money, so I bought a used trike there on that trip and came home with it and started flying as often as I could back here in New Mexico.
Flying is certainly magical. Did you know that you wanted something that would be open to the air from the get-go, or did you consider a small plane or anything different?
Well, I had flown in a small plane, and I just felt kind of so separated from everything. I was looking out a little window, and I really knew after I did that flight when I was 13 that I wanted to fly something open so I could really just be immersed in the sky and see everything below me and all around me and feel the air. And so that's really why I decided that this trike, this powered hang glider would be the best thing that I could find to fly just out in the open and really kind of connect with everything.
Well, it gives you amazing autonomy, being able to take off and land on your own and not be dependent on anybody else.
Yeah.
And you have a pretty good range. What, about 500 or 600 miles?
Yeah, well, not quite. It depends on which wing you have on there. I have different speed wings, but I think with my faster wing, I can probably got a 400-mile range, depending on the winds, maybe more or less, depending on if you have a headwind or tailwind. But
Do you usually try to fly in the morning or evening when the air's a little bit calmer?
yes, yeah, I still to this day, even after almost 20 years of flying, I don't like rough air. So
See, I come at it from the opposite perspective. Flying sailplanes, I
I know,
love rough air.
I
That's my
know,
energy.
I know you do. Well, I'm actually gotten much more tolerant to it than I used to be, but still, if it's rough for a long period, I start feeling queasy again. So I try to fly early mornings. Like this morning, I took off before around sunrise, and evenings in the winter. Evenings are really nice, and sometimes in the summer, but usually summer evenings in New Mexico can be kind of rough too. So a lot of the year, I end up flying early mornings. Between half an hour before sunrise and 2 or 3 hours after sunrise.
Where did the photography come into the picture?
So after flying for, gosh, even after the first couple flights, um, you're so blown away by what you see. It's just, especially from being on land your whole life and all of a sudden being up there and being in an open aircraft, you really your mind is blown, and you want to share it with people. So, and I dabbled in photography. I had a few cameras and I had done some photography, but it was just a natural thing. As soon as I started feeling comfortable up there, after the first couple of weeks, I started bringing a camera with me, and just every morning there was something new and beautiful to witness up there. And so it was pretty natural progression just to start wanting to take pictures.
Your photography is beyond stunning. It's so beautiful. What sort of avenues has this opened up for you?
Yeah, it's been an interesting road. I really want to capture these things I'm seeing with a camera that can really convey the feeling of the freedom you have and the landscapes you're seeing. So I kept getting more powerful cameras. First it was film, because back then digital wasn't really that great. And so I went to medium format film, bigger film. And I was kind of limited by the amount of pictures you could take in a flight, because I had to change film manually. And so when digital actually got really good, I couldn't, I had to switch over finally. It was so much easier to be able to take 1,000 pictures on a flight instead of 35, So,
Well, do you bring multiple cameras and do you mount them somewhere, or how do you manage that?
well, my main still camera is around my neck, so I can fly and aim in any direction and shoot it and do all the settings as I fly. I also have a few video cameras, and I have a gimbal on the front that I use sometimes to do video, which is kind of a newer endeavor for me. But I've had GoPros and little point of view cameras all over the wing in different places for years, and that's fun too. But now I'm trying to really focus on getting high end video, and as well as high end stills while I'm flying. So the stills are all done with a camera around my neck, and all the video stuff is from cameras that are mounted somewhere on the plane.
What are the advantages of shooting from a platform like your trike versus drone photography?
Well, I think the main advantage is just the joy you get out of actually being up there. Of course, you get the other side of it too, and some days you have scary experience, but just to be up there and be immersed in it and shooting it while you're actually immersed in the subject that you're shooting is, I think, you can get angles that you wouldn't necessarily see through a screen of a drone. And also, you can go much further than a drone can. So you can cover 200 or 300 miles of beautiful terrain shooting pictures, whereas a drone is very limited to, half an hour or something like that.
What was probably the scariest, or one of the more frightening aerial situations you ever ran into?
Well, as you know, the more you fly, the more chances you have of having some scary experiences. I would say probably the scariest one was having my engine die when I was, flying over a mountain canyon and having to land, you know, very unexpectedly and very quickly on a highway with traffic on it. That
Oh,
was
I bet that was interesting.
that was really scary. And I got to say, when that happened, that was kind of like the Avalanche experience in a way, because I was so shaken by it that I really like questioned everything I was doing, and wondered, like, what do I really? Why am I doing this? What is motivating me to do this? And do I really want to take this risk? Um, and I mulled it over and just stewed on it for a long time, and what I came up with is that I really love what I'm doing, and that if I can use that experience to do it safer and to really learn something that will keep me safer in the future, then that's what I wanted to do. And so that was another bump in the road, so to speak, that kind of you know takes you to the brink of, and makes you question everything in your life, and then you can decide again: is this really what you want to do? And I decided yes, it was. I love just being up there, and I love sharing this perspective with the world, and I feel like for now that's still what I want to do. Um, so
Is life in the air more real than life on the ground?
in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. I'd say it. I mean, some days it's hard to come back to earth and like ground into just the whole web of stuff we deal with down here, the onslaught of everything, media and just life and making a living and all that. So it's more real in some ways because you really get a clear kind of view of what's important, and also just such a different connection with the planet that we're on, and the way that it all interconnects with itself and with us to support life here. So it's more real in some ways, but it also, sometimes you come home and you're kind of spaced out because it's hard to want to dive back into the muck on Earth, when when there's so much seemingly mundane stuff to deal with. So I think one wouldn't be as good without the other. I wouldn't want to be in the air all the time, and I wouldn't want to be on land all the time either. So they complement each other well.
You have really just so many stunning pictures. What are some of your favorites?
God, the landscape in New Mexico and Colorado and Utah has just been, especially the last few years, I've been flying into Utah, and that is such an alien landscape that it's hard to even fathom that you're seeing it. Like flying over Monument Valley or some of these places. I mean, I love New Mexico and I love flying in this area, and the mountains here are spectacular. But Utah is also just such an alien, otherworldly place that's kind of my one of my favorite places to go explore and fly those places. I love just packing up and going for a multi-day or week long flying trip with everything I need in the trike and camping out. And to me, that's one of the most invigorating, exciting things that I know of at this point.
What sort of advice would you give to somebody on following your passion?
I think it's really important to follow your passion, but I think at the same time, you have to realize that you are putting yourself into a whole different world that involves risks, and that it has to be taken really seriously and with lots of study and thought and practice and caution. because the weather is another big factor with a small plane, super light plane like this, is learning to fly when the weather's safe for it. So I think it's, I would advise just to approach it slowly and really use your intuition, and don't rush into anything. Don't feel like you have to be in a hurry with anything, and let it just unfold naturally to where you feel comfortable and you feel empowered as you do this, instead of feeling like you're pushing it and you're on the edge of danger where you could be putting yourself at too much risk. So I think that's really after this long of doing it. When I was younger, I was more just gung ho and jump right in and do it. Now I feel like you can do it really safely if you do it right. And that's kind of what I would advise. Just if you feel comfortable and you feel energized by it, then you're doing it right. If you feel scared all the time and like, you kind of cringe when you think about it, then you're doing something wrong. So I think that's really it, is just staying in tune with yourself and with the weather and with your aircraft is so important in doing something like this.
I think flying really connects you to the earth and to the world in a way that few things do. I mean, the energy of the sky, the beauty, it's just such an incredible experience. What life lessons would you pass along from your time in the air?
Yeah, there's so many positive things I've taken from these experiences. I think really when you see how everything is so interconnected on the planet, and you see how we are so interconnected to all the systems of the planet to stay alive, from the rain and the snow falling in the mountains and then running down into our fields and the valleys, and our connection with the earth to be able to grow food and survive that way. And I think just really building connections with our natural world and with each other is really some of the life lessons that I've been learning. Is, we're all in this together, and the more we connect with people, especially different kinds of people who we wouldn't normally connect with, we kind of build little bridges or, bonds between people that make us a little more understanding for to each other and to other people of different walks of life. And I think those kind of connections are really important as we move forward, because we really need to connect on a more global scale if we want to keep life healthy life on Earth going. I feel like we're at a point where we've lived in a disconnected way with our society and with each other, and that it's not serving us. And the more we can kind of build those connections again, we can learn how to thrive in harmony with each other and with the earth in a way that's sustainable.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found something in today's podcast that inspires you along your own life's path, because sometimes a bump in the road is actually a portal into a more conscious and meaningful life. You can subscribe to our free podcast at www.bumpintheroad.us or become a premium member to hear the full conversation. Just go to www.bumpintheroad.us for more information and to sign up.